Good morning, team. Welcome. Welcome to the Data Challenge semi-finals. We're very excited to hear your pitch. Away you go.
I am a commercial lead in DWP. I support digital colleagues to deliver projects in the shared channels experience category. A significant proportion of my role involves procuring digital professionals, whether that be a team to deliver an end-to-end project or an individual specialist for a niche area of the business. Time and time again, when working alongside colleagues in digital, we're experiencing challenges when it takes to onboard individuals, owing to the processing of data for security clearances. Security clearances can take anything from 2 weeks to 4 months. I know this from my own experience in 2018, when I spent 4 months awaiting my own clearance to join the civil service, many a time questioning if the wait was worth it. The challenge is not just for new people onboarding, but for those already working in government. Imagine yourself a cybersecurity architect. You're currently working at Home Office and due to finish on Friday. You've been fortunate enough to secure a new role in DWP from Monday. However, you're awaiting your clearance to be transferred, and as such, you cannot start your new role. You are out of work until such a time you receive your clearance. The issue spans every single sector that requires clearance, from DBS right through to counter-terrorism. Projects are delayed, projects that stand to make a difference to some of the most vulnerable in society. The challenge is endemic across government, from SME to large-scale organisations. Everyone has a similar story to tell, and not just in the area that I work. We are collaborating with the Home Office on this exact problem. Cross-government colleagues share this challenge, and we want to make it better. The cost of a new security check ranges from £38 for counter-terrorism to £1,339 for developed betting. Yet, the cost to transfer any clearance is just £21. It is estimated that 250,000 people go through some form of clearance each year. If our solution saves just £1 on each clearance, we could provide a school meal for every child in Manchester, and that is just the beginning. Eliminating the need to get a brand new clearance will generate efficiencies in millions of pounds. A person requiring an SC clearance can now transfer it with ease. You can share your DV clearance, so instead of a company paying over £1,000, they instead just pay £21. Importantly, time. Clearance is quicker, project delivery is quicker, boots are on the ground making a difference to people's lives. The risk of delivering projects is mitigated. This solution also supports the government SME agenda. Cash flow for small and medium enterprises can be a challenge. Therefore, the ability to onboard SMEs quicker will support this agenda.
So the current process is long. It involves many people and involves even more emails. Imagine Sarah gets her job at DWP. She will need a security clearance, so she will contact Jeremy, our UK security vetting team, who will send a form. Sarah will fill it in and hand it back. Now, Jeremy will have to do all his checks, collect all that data, and eventually make the decision. When he does, he issues a PDF certificate. Now, Sarah can come back to the new department, but we won't trust it. It's just a PDF after all. So we'll go back to the Jeremy. Excuse me, is that right? Jeremy has to check his records, find the data again, and eventually, a few months later, he will say, yes, that's okay, welcome. But imagine what would happen if instead of a PDF, unstructured data, Sarah got something more. Sarah got a digital copy with structured data with all the information. Now, Sarah hears about the project at the DIT, where I work.
I would like to join your project.
Well, this kind of project requires security clearance, so I would like to have you, but I will have to see your identity, employment records, and criminality check.
Well, you're not seeing my criminality check.
Well, this is kind of project where we need to if you want to join us, so you have to decide.
Oh, okay.
So I've got the data, it's structured. I will still verify with Jeremy. Jeremy, is that right? Now, no more checks, we trust this. Welcome on the project. So it's already better, it's faster. It also gives the control of the personal data to the person it relates to. But it will be even better. With structured data, my and Jeremy's job, and many people in between us, can be automated out. So what are we proposing here? We want to empower employees to own and share their clearance data. That's right. We want to hand over the data to the people it relates to, so they are free to share or not to share the data with whoever they choose. It is the right and ethical thing to do. And it also is the natural consequence of a decade of user-centric design of government services pioneered by GDS, the Government Digital Services. It is the natural next step after the decade of Open Data Institute, which helped us to understand how to build ethical, open, and trusted data ecosystems of the future. The process is faster, fewer people are involved, and so ultimately it's cheaper and more secure. Not only it saves money, but it enables us across the whole civil service to deliver our missions at pace. It is in line with our national data strategy. What we propose will help to progress the data landscape towards a more open, more standards-based, more ethical data world. It will help, in words of Secretary of State for DCMS, to position the UK as a global champion of data use. Our solution solves problems at hand, while at the same time positions UK as the leader in the global digital debate, as mandated by the UK Digital Strategy. It won't be easy. What we are proposing is applying new technology to security applications, vetting. It will be challenging, especially that our legal system right now is centered about corporate data ownership, not a personal one. And as if with any shift in technology, we will need to get to the critical mass of adoption before what we are proposing here becomes an obvious choice, not a scary proposition. So no, it won't be easy, but the change is already happening in the world. It will be difficult, but it is the right thing to do. And when we are successful, the possible applications are endless and very wide-reaching. Many of them saving money and improving the civil service ability to deliver on our missions at pace, at lower cost, so giving better value for money, but also improving lives of society here and abroad.
So, our solution covers various bases. It involves data. It involves how we do things. It involves technology. What we're proposing may be a game changer, but the change is already happening. Our proposal aligns with the UK Digital Strategy, hot off the press, in 2022. It aligns with our National Data Strategy of 2020. The Open Data Institute has advocated this sort of work for over 10 years now, and the GDS has been revolutionising users' experiences for the last 12 years. By solving one problem, we are providing the solution to so many. We know that this is big, but we have thought this through. These next steps are easily implemented. Just looking here, we can develop a prototype. We can test the prototype in maybe 1 or 2 departments. Then we can scale up, and when it works, not if, when, we can then implement much more widely, both nationally and internationally. The future is so much bigger than the past, and we believe that by implementing our proposal, starting with the enabling of personal data ownership, the future will be so much brighter. Thank you very much for your engagement. We would welcome any questions.
Thank you very much. Great presentation and unexpected bonus seeing your acting skills. Thank you. Very
Oscar
amusing.
winners.
Oscar winners, for
Indeed.
sure. For sure. Right, who would like to kick us off? Go on, Ardin.
Thank you very much. I'm Aydin. I thought that was brilliant. I loved the role playing. I thought that really brought it to life. Thank you. And this is definitely something that's close to my heart, having experienced some of the kind of pain of bringing people in. I just want to make sure I've understood what we're saying, because my personal experience is that for existing civil servants moving from one department to another, that seems to work more smoothly than contractors, and that's just anecdotal what I've seen. But it sounds like the process is the same no matter what. So whether you're a contractor, so it's fixing it for both. Are we essentially, is the UKSV not in its new operating model doing the kind of vetting on behalf of all the departments? The department's sponsor, they do the vetting. Is essentially what we're saying is that UKSV holds the data, all of this, and then releases to the department a flag or something that says, yes, you can have this person start tomorrow because they've got SC cleared with the MOD, and they can start working for DFE or wherever it is.
Can I take that question?
Of course, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so UKSV is working in that broad form.
Yeah.
So some departments use clusters, some departments have an individual cluster that takes up some of the smaller departments. However, UKSV is doing it, but if you're at Home Office and you want to transfer your clearance, you don't get to choose if you transfer that clearance. You say you're moving to DWP. DWP will ask, can we transfer this person's clearance? Often, the Home Department, for example, in this scenario, Home Office will say no, because we've got top secret information here and we don't want to share it. So it's about the department that you're currently working at giving you the permission to share the individual's data, not the individual's decision.
And how often does that happen? Is that quite a frequent occurrence where, HMRC will say, no, we don't want DWP to...
The rejection is very infrequent, but what happens is that chain we were trying to enact, and there are more people in the chain. So Sarah wants to join our department. I cannot just look at the records because of a security model. And really what all I care about is how many years she's been working in the UK legally, for example.
Yeah.
I have to go through the step, and people further and further in the step have access to more information. And this is because the UKSV will hold a lot of sensitive information, and that we are not proposing to share. But most of the decisions are based on information Sarah is already aware of, like criminality record, employment history, nationality, things like that. That should be in the hands on the individual. The process is long because we are delegating the decision to share that data through the chain rather than allow the individual to say, yes, I'm happy for you to see that.
The other thing to say on that is each step in that chain has an SLA, and it isn't a short SLA. So, for example, you send your form to a cluster, they have 2 weeks to respond to say we've received it, we've started the processing. So it's not, these windows are expansive, aren't they? They aren't days or hours, they are significant periods of time, which is why you can end up at 4 months in my scenario.
And a cluster is part of UKSV?
It is, yeah, so it's a team.
Yeah.
Thank
Right.
you.
So, I'm Simon from the Home Office. I love the fact you're trying to make things work better across government, and love your presentation as well. Interested, have you had much opportunity to talk this concept and proposal through with UKSV, and what's their reaction to that?
So interestingly, hot off the press last Friday, I had a conversation with the Home Office Chief Technology Officer, Sarah Woolley. She gave us some links to the DBS team at UKSV, so we are starting that engagement. We've got a meeting booked in the post-Christmas now due to contractor stand down, but we are having to have the discussions. Very little information is available because it's secret.
So in absence of our ability to talk to UKSV directly, we've talked to our vetting teams internally. They're very supportive as well, because many of those checks are simple. It's those basic questions everybody should be able to know about themselves. So we think it will work. Eventually we will get to UKSV.
Yeah, I think if you think about it, the concept you've got here is analogous to the digital status that we grant to people, say European Union citizens who've got the right to remain in the UK and the right to work. So there are precedents of this, aren't there?
If I may, very applicable to me. I've got one of those statuses, but I don't know what it is. I got an email saying this is not proof of anything. So I might have it, I might not. And with this concept, I would have information which I can validate and see what it is. It would make me feel much better.
Mm-hmm. And if I can just come in as well, I think one of the great things about this particular proposal and its potential is you can actually start small. So you can actually look at, when I say relatively simple clearances, I mean your CTC up to SC.
Yeah.
You can test the concept at that level, but we believe that it will work, and then perhaps you can actually move a little bit further forward for perhaps more sensitive clearances, DV and above. But obviously, at that point, then you're probably adopting other compartmentalizing of the data, etc. But the great thing is that you can upscale.
Yeah.
You can test concept and then scale up from there.
So it's applicable not only to security clearances. On our slides, we had examples of, I had interesting discussion if in FCDO it could be applicable to disaster relief workers volunteering around the world where we need to verify some credentials. It could work similarly to current NHS passport, which allows doctors and nurses transfer from one hospital to another within England only. It could work across UK. It could actually work globally everywhere where our qualifications are recognized, places like Australia, New Zealand, Nigeria, off the top of my head. Because rather than depending on centralized data and everybody subscribing to a single operating system, we are talking about open standards and people being able to adopt them and trust them when they wish, regardless where they are based.
Great. So I'd like to explore something with you because something is worrying me, and it's worrying me a lot, and let me explore that with you. So you had us at, we need to improve the security clearance process.
Yeah.
What you've described, though, I think is reinventing a digital identity model for government. You mentioned GDS a couple of times. You've got a couple of ex-GDSs here, and I led government's Verify program for a period of time. And one of the levels of assurance, 3, was to enable us to know who someone was, and you could attach their security clearances. So I'm interested in your thoughts, and I really like the acting. And what brought home to me is that there are opportunities to improve the process by improved ways that we do the sort of the security control of the document itself, for instance, which could enormously speed up the process. So if you were to look through the lens of realistically, what do you think is achievable within, likely government technology space? What would you be focusing on that would improve the clearance of the security process as you've described?
So I'll take this. This is very interesting you mentioned the identity, government identity project, because they looked at number of different ways of storing that information. And one of them is exactly what we would like to use, which is personal online data stores. That was seen as an option. It is all about changing the model. The trust is not because who owns the data, but who issued it. And the ownership is transferred to the individual it relates to. So with that, there are challenges, but we are focusing on implementing existing technology. So there are already commercial, even and open source companies working with that technology. The technology has been championed for a decade now by Sir Tim Berners-Lee and Open Data Institute. So we are focusing on using what already works, but applying it in the new concept, in the concept of government and clearances.
I suppose my question still stands, though. What could you do, for instance, to verify the authenticity of that PDF that would enable the whole process to be sped up?
So there are two elements of it. So first of all, cryptography. We've got digital signatures and we've got public certificate infrastructure that is already used for ensuring information which is not very sensitive is trusted. That's how the HTTPS works on all the websites already. We will need to issue those certificates. The second aspect of it is verifying that the information definitely wasn't changed. And that means probably organizations issuing that data would need to keep a digital signature of that data with some ID, which allows me to go to Jeremy and verify, which is based on cryptography. So I don't have to share Sarah's data. I would calculate the cryptographic signature, go, is it valid? Do you have a record of it? Has it been issued? And based on that, we can validate the data hasn't been modified without sharing it.
And that's the essence of my point. I think there are some real marginal benefits that can be made that on the scale we're operating would be significant improvement.
Absolutely.
Don't lose sight of that, is my suggestion.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, completely agree.
Thank you.
And related to that, one of the things to think about is what we can expect if you do get through to the final.
More excellent acting.
No, well, yes, you've set the bar now, yes.
We're a bit depleted on our team today, but we do have a service designer working alongside us as well, who unfortunately couldn't travel today. We are expecting to come back next time with more information in terms of the actual benefit realisation in terms of pound notes, because that's what's important, return on investment for this particular project. We also hope that if we are fortunate enough to get through to the final, the traffic that we are starting to see and generate across government will continue, and we do kind of have some partners, like I say, Home Office are keen. They're doing something at the moment on automation for their internal checks, so it'd be really good to augment with that and come back with a more almost a broader model where we see that working.
It's my team who are
we're
doing
excited
that.
for the next
Oh,
steps.
excellent.
So we've spoken with the DBS as well. What we are trying to convince people is that technology exists. So we won't be able to go in 3 months to UKSV and make them develop services. What we will be able to do is build a proof of concept, show how it works, build those auxiliary services, start building them to show, look, those are the things we need to do to create that critical mass of adoption. And we believe that once we show how it works, we present it to people in other departments who are already interested, that adoption will happen. That's how the world works. NHS already work on that technology to store patient records. BBC work on that with Spotify. So it's sort of our controlled and or funded and corporate entities working on that. The Flanders government across the channel, they have just rolled out as an experiment individual pods, data pods for 6.5 million of their citizens. So we are nearly there. What we are proposing is to jump on that wave of transition and become leaders in this technology as mandated by national data strategy and UK digital strategy.
Okay.
Can I just come in? Yeah, hi, so just maybe some more suggestions for you to think about over the coming weeks. And I think it's come up in some of the questions, but just coming back with a kind of a clear sponsor who's going to help you navigate this. And then the other thing, because I think he kind of answered Alison's question and it helped me understand a bit more, but just understanding the architecture and the data flow a bit more, I think would be helpful for us to understand the concept.
Of course. The idea of personal data ownership is that there is no longer the traditional data center architecture. That's what makes it resilient, that's what makes it scale quite easily. So any organization that issues those certificates, identities, information about individual can store their own records, as they do right now. UKSV, NHS, perhaps others. Individuals will keep their own data. That can be in the government-provided personal storage, but we believe that once it gets to the adoption as it is getting to, more and more private companies will do that. At the moment, there are just a few, but it will change. So individuals will be able to choose who they trust, where they want to keep the data. Some people already do that, use the open source and keep the data in their own homes, on a Raspberry Pi and things like that. So the architecture is very distributed, but that provides resilience and security, because currently if somebody breaks into UKSV, they get it all. With solid pods, the data being distributed, if somebody breaks to Sarah's solid pod, they will get her data. Nationally, it's a very small risk. So the data architecture is one which is federated and distributed.
Mm-hmm. Any final thoughts or questions for the team?
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much for your time. Really good.
Thank you, team.
presentation.
Well done.
Thank you.